And one of my personal, I guess, inspirational pieces and points has been the man that I'm about to introduce you to. He's inspired me for a very long time. And I actually interviewed this man years and years and years and years ago when I was a little youngster with no hairs on my chest. And now I've grown up a little bit more, and I still get the privilege to interview him and chat with him. He has been doing some incredible things across the world always, but this year and last year, he has been a voice for so many people, and he's none other than Pat Mesiti, and I am so proud and honoured to have the man here today.
How are you, Andy? Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you, my friend. How are you?
Look at you. Look at you. When I grow up, I want to look like you. How many of you hate Andy? Just give me a wave out there. I want to look like him. Chisel. I mean, what up, dude? You know, I'm 62 and I want to look like you.
Mate, stop creating division. No, I'm joking. I appreciate that. And again, I thank you for all the work that you've been doing. You are literally on the ground. You are not pulling back punches. You're literally calling out premiers and the Prime Minister daily, asking for accountability, asking for change. And Absolutely. This is what we need more of. We need men like you and powers like you to step up, because without that, we will not see any change at all. So again, mate, welcome to the Global Freedom Rally, and a huge thank you.
A huge thank you, Andy, for putting this on. Can we thank Andy for putting this on? I know the effort, energy, time that it takes. And by the way, I'm still working on one person for you. I'll talk to Chris out later on. I'm still working on it. We can get him that person in tomorrow. But you know what? We need. I don't know when you want me to get started, but I've been thinking about this all morning, Andy. Where'd you go? I lost you, bro. The goal of our Prime Minister Scott Morrison to get up and say yesterday, listen to this, that he's wants the premiers to give us back our freedom. Mr. Prime Minister, can I remind you, when did you all of a sudden become, William Wallace crying out freedom, when you, in fact, sir, instigated all this stuff? Here's what I don't understand, Andy, and if you want to jump in any time and interview me, ask me any questions, please feel free. Here's what gets me. This man, and again, guys, you've got to understand, I'm an ex-preacher, and by the way, still do. This is what he hasn't mandated. He hasn't mandated freedom. You see, let me just say this. The Prime Minister of this country hasn't allowed the blood out of the jabs from our arms to dry until he starts going out trying to do his William Wallace Wilberforce cry for freedom. Where was he? Where was he when he said there would not be mandated vaccinations and then allowed the states to do that? Where was this guy? Let me tell you what he's doing. This is his political ploy. He has an election coming up, I'm predicting around about February. And what he wants to do is make the premiers, particularly those of the Labor Party, to look like they're the bad guys. And he was there all along encouraging you. Mr. Morrison, let me ask you, where were you, Braveheart, when the kids in the supermarket, teenage kids, were either going to get jabbed or lose their job? Andy, help me out here. Am I missing something, Mr. Morrison? Or where were you? You are our rugby league loving PM, and as my great friend James McPherson stated in his article in Spectator magazine, where were you when your fellow Pentecostal Christian friend, John Asiata, lost his contract for daring to insist upon bodily autonomy? Where were you, Scotty? I'll tell you where you were. You were out there like Judas Kiss. Let me just refresh what Judas was. Judas sold the Christ for 30 pieces of silver. Actually, he sold himself. And what he did, he didn't crucify the master. He didn't arrest the master. He kissed them on the cheek and identified him, because in those days, they didn't have Instagram and social media and photography. He identified him. And what our Prime Minister has done is identified those that refuse, watch this, refuse to buy into the deal. Now, let's look at this deal that Mr. Morrison had in mind. Where was he when hairdressers or school teachers or 10 million other employees had been threatened with no jab, no job. Let me remind everybody out there, listen to me very carefully, lest we forget. This guy is trying to suck up because there's an election coming up. And he knows he's in trouble. My encouragement to you, this is not about Labor or Liberal. This is about right or wrong. I'm going to give you a Bible verse. Just hang with me. Don't get upset because I'm giving you a Bible verse. If any of you are out there are believers. This is what the good book says. It says, shall the throne of iniquity, in other words, governmental rulers, who devise evil by law, in other words, shall governmental rulers who devise wrong things by law have anything in common or fellowship with you? And the answer should be a no. I'm asking you, don't forget. And by the way, don't go voting for Albo. He's no better. We need to start rising up. And by the way, be careful of the minority party. I know some of you, for a joke, went and voted for the sex party in Melbourne. How's that working for you right now? How are the Greens working for you right now? Now, don't get mad at me. Don't get pissed off because I'm telling you the truth. They're not. They're not there with your agenda. They're not there standing up for your jobs. By the way, let me remind our listeners today that Scott Morrison was the instigator of the no jab, no play. I have some friends. They're actually ministers. And these ministers have children that are, struggling with some stuff. One of their children had a major reaction to some vaccinations. Now, listen to me very carefully what I'm about to say. I'm not telling you to get jabbed, not get jabbed. I'm fighting for this right here. The freedom to choose. I want bodily autonomy. How many of you understand that? Give me a yeah if you get that. Give me a yeah if you get that in the chat, please. Give me a yeah. Because if we don't get this, we're not going to get anything. And these people now, because they don't get paid a lot, they are penalised a couple of $100 a month, which may not mean a lot to you and me, but to people that are out there in the community, helping community. And because they want to protect their children, they get less money. This is under Scott Morrison's watch. Do you realise under the Morrison watch, we have lost more jobs, more businesses have gone bankrupt. Watch this. This deal that we were set up for, watch this. For the best part, this PM has been silent while state governments and big business, including Bunnings and Woolworths, and I'll go down the road if you keep going down if you want me to, have forced healthy people to undergo a medical procedure that many of them did not want. Mr. Morrison, if this was a business deal, we got the wrong end of the stick. This so-called deal was get jabbed or lose your job. This deal was get injected or you can't see your families or friends. The gall of Channel 7, we ought to black ban Koshy. By the way, he's not that great an economist either, and a business advisor. I'll leave that one alone. Now, after 80% have kept our part, after a highly coercive deal, the PM wants to cover his face in war paint, as my great friend James McPherson says, don on a kilt and run around on horseback yelling, freedom. Scott Morrison, we're not buying your BS. And on election, we're not doing it. How many of you will agree with me? No more of this. The two political party system has rendered us prisoners. I believe we have been betrayed. He said we're not in favour of mandatory vaccination, yet Mr. Morrison did absolutely nothing. He said businesses can make their own choices under law, but we're not about telling them what to do or telling the Australians what to do. Now, to the common person, this sounds, well, that's pretty good from the PM, but he could have legislated to stop businesses and state governments from violating people, and he didn't. He never did a damn thing. Now, his final act is this big drama. Vaccines are only mandatory in cases where you've got health workers working with vulnerable people. Well, let me ask you what the Archbishop of Brisbane has done. Andy, how am I going back there, man? Feel free to jump on here because I always like it when you jump in. How am I going so far? We're doing
Mate,
all right.
you're speaking truth as per usual. And again, I can't agree more with you.
I'm just warming up here. Let me show you. This article appeared yesterday. This is the Archbishop of Brisbane issues vaccine deadline, says unvaccinated clergy members are failing in their duty of care. Can I ask, at what point does this Archbishop, Mark Coleridge, this man who believes in a Jesus who touched lepers? Now let me get this right. This bloke believes in a Jesus that's touched lepers without a jab, but he's scared of he's saying that his clergy are breaking duty of care. Let me tell you why they're doing this. I'm going to drop a truth bomb right now. All of these people signed up for under a thing by the Micah organization called End COVID for All. They got 55 million. If you go to End COVID for All, Micah organization headed up by Tim Costello, you will see the list of churches that signed up to push vaccinations out to the entire population, because it started within Samoa and Fiji and these countries, but of course it rolls into here. Now you've got clergy in this country, church leaders, telling their people or their ministers, if you don't get jabbed, you can't function as a minister or a priest or a pastor. Can I ask you, where did you get that from in the Bible? You people are supposed to believe in the miraculous. What, it can't protect you from a COVID, which has got a 99.7% success rate of recovery? And this guy says that means that clergy engaged in parish ministry must come close to people. Well, that'd be about right. Clergy not doubly jabbed are failing in their duty of care to the faithful. Might I add that you're failing in your duty of care? When did this come as part of their ministerial vows? And this is what he said. He said, I will not consider conscientious objection to receive a vaccination as a valid exemption. He says, I have a conscience too. So, let me remind you, conscience is individually based. It is not a corporate thing. Now, he said, it is not just legal obligation, but consciousness which has led me to do this. Bishop, let me enlighten. Bishop Mark Coleridge. You're threatening people to lose their jobs. Would you do that if it was a person of color? Would you do that if it was a person of different sexuality? Would you do it to a person who was of different nationality? Let me ask you, would you do it to a person who was obesely overweight? A priest who could fall on someone and help hurt someone? Would you do that? See, what you are doing, sir, like Lord Scott Morrison does, is you are committing medical apartheid. Now, our Prime Minister, let's get back to him. I need you to listen to me very intently here. I need you to hear what I'm about to say. This deal that our Prime Minister, the Aussies have done their part of the deal. But Mr. Morrison, you're telling me that the state premiers, which you are right, I mean, you're a bit late to the party, I've got to say. You know, people like me and Andy and everyone else have been telling me this for 12 months. But you had to push your 80%. You had to use coercion, alienation, cutting off borders, prison, arrests to one of your own fellow Christian pastors, Paul Furlong, and many others. You had to arrest the Monica Smiths. You had to incarcerate my friend Topher Field, or arrest him. You allowed built up quarantine camps in Melbourne and Brisbane. When these governments promised hospitals, they're building health camps. Remind you of something else? Mr. Morrison, under your deal People lost their jobs. They couldn't see their children. They were coerced. They were under attack. Police fired bullets and you said nothing up till this week because your little golden child, Dan Andrews, you like him, don't lie to me. You've never spoken out against what he's done, let alone Stephen Miles and Anastasia Palaszczuk. You've never done it once. Or Mark McGowan. Mr. Morrison, home incarcerations, curfews, spraying bullets, arrested for walking, kids can't play in the park, parents can't see their children, loved ones can't see their loved ones that are dying in beds, bribery, threatening us, locking us out, creating a two-tiered system. That's under your watch, Mr. Prime Minister. Now, you're William Wallace. Putting on your kilt. Let me tell you what's under your kilt. The same thing that was under William Wallace's and under your rhetoric. Nothing. You're just doing this for your election. Mr. Morrison, and I know many of you will concur, let me close by saying this. I have a problem with your silence over the last 18 months. Number one, silence is loud. Do you think, how many of you out there can see beyond this BS of this two-faced leader who hides behind a Bible? Actually doesn't, because let me tell you. Article in the Sydney Morning Herald where he's got his direction from in areas of climate change and I'm not going to get a climate change argument here, and in the case of the pandemic, he got it from Bill Gates. If you don't believe me, look up an article that appeared on the 30th of last month in the Sydney Morning Herald. The Billionaire, the book, how Bill Gates convinced our Prime Minister. Silence is loud. Listen, silence supports oppression. Silence is approval for evil. For evil to prosper, all good men need to do is stay silent. Mr. Morrison, you've been silent 18 months. Now, because we did the part of the deal. No, listen. We didn't want the deal. You signed us up for the deal, coerced us, bullied us, threw us in jail, kept us away from our families, can't see your kids. Mr. Morrison, let me give you a little ace you've got up your sleeve, which everyone listening to this broadcast, every single person does for you and for these dictators. Let me tell you what it is. It's called tax. It's called GST. Mark McGowan brazenly states that WA was in a great financial position. That's because you bankrolled him $130 billion. So, Mr. Morrison, you want them to give us our freedoms? How about you do this as a Christmas present? Every state that doesn't open up to everybody, remove the GST. After all, we're paying for it. You haven't locked us out of that economy yet. You haven't freed us from paying taxes yet. You see, we aren't stupid and we ask questions. Mr. Morrison, let me ask you, why no transparency as to the adverse reactions? Mr. Morrison, why the media blackout? Mr. Morrison, where did they get this from? You know damn well. It's you. You're no William Wallace. You're actually a Judas kissing people so they can be identified and treated poorly. Silence is an enabler and silence is agreement. Now, I'm a big believer in freedom. That's why I got these mandate freedoms, and Andy and Chris out there encouraged me to let you guys know about them. I'm not here to promote T-shirts. God knows I certainly don't need to make a few bucks on a T-shirt. This is my awake, not woke shirt. Awake, but not woke. I've got my mandate freedom shirt. I had my other one out there called Unvaxxed Lives Matters. And if you go to our shop.mesiti.com, you can get these shirts there. I'd encourage you to order up. If you're normally a small, get a medium. If you're a medium, get a large. Not saying anything about your body shape, just saying the shirts. And you can get them. And listen, be a walking billboard. The amount of people, I was at a gym and an old digger was on his bike and we occasionally just talk hi and hello every now and again. And he said, "What's that about, son?" I said, "Sir, it's about fighting for the freedoms that we have lost. Dictators don't give freedoms back unless they are demanded." And he said, "Thank you, son." He said, "I fought 2 wars for this country, not to put up with the nonsense I'm seeing happen right now." He said, "Thanks for wearing a shirt to the gym." Do you know what? You wear this, it starts a conversation. You're not picking a fight. Hey, we're awake. I'm not woke. Wokeatopia. This wokeatopia is not working. And for those of you in Brisbane, starting tomorrow in Bow Desert, I have funded myself out of our own pocket some rallies right across Queensland. They're called the Great Southland Rallies. And they're going to be held in places of worship where they're conference centres. In Bow Desert, we're up at Harvest Point starting tomorrow. We've got at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday morning, Monday night. Admission is free. I'd love you all to come to Bow Desert. Next Sunday, we'll be in Caloundra at the Caloundra RSL. Now, if you go to the link, you will need to register. That's not something I'm asking. Okay, I don't want to have an issue over just register there. You can do it. Matter of fact, you don't need to register for tomorrow, but for tomorrow and for the Gold Coast one, but for the Sunshine Coast one, we do RSL. But if you go to mesitilive.com, we're in Bow Desert tomorrow and Monday. Please show up. 90% of victory is showing up. Then the next Sunday only, we're going to be up in Caloundra in the Sunshine Coast. Then the following weekend on the 5th and 6th of December on the Gold Coast at the Reach Up the Christ Auditorium. Look, it is going to be faith-based, but look, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of things. We've got a great music team to inspire you. I'm pretty fired up about this, and we've funded it to the tune of a lot of money. I won't say how much, and we've done this out of our own business, and so I'd encourage you to be part of it. Andy, any questions you want to ask, and or any comments at all that you need to clarify?
Mate, I've got a lot of comments, and I think you've spoken a lot of truth.
I can't read any. I can't see any comments. So, but just help me out here.
Look, mate, I think everything you said and everything you have been saying, it's really important. What you mentioned about ScoMo is so true, and it's been so frustrating to see out of nowhere you come out and try to take the hero platform and save the day.
William Wallace.
Mate, where have you been the last 2 years? He's been calling out everyone else. Where have you been?
He's been reading Bill Gates' book. That's what he's been doing. And if you look up that article, Andy, it's The Billionaire, the book, and how Gates influenced our Prime Minister. And this is incompetence of the highest order. That's why, listen, it's no longer anymore about Labor or Liberal. I'm not here to be political. It's about right and wrong.
Yes.
That's what it's about. And we keep voting for these two parties, we're going to keep getting the same. So go and find a good right wing. And again, I'm not trying to pick a fight with anyone, but you've got your Craigs and you've got your Paulines out there, and look, they can't be the prime ministers, but we can hold the balance of power. That's what stopped Dictator Dan in Victoria, and that's what we need to get back is the power to the people. Sorry, Andy, I'm pretty fired up about this stuff.
Absolutely, but you're right. And the good news is we're seeing a change. I'm feeling a change. I don't know if you've been looking on IG, but over 200,000 people in Melbourne have been reported to be marching right now.
Wow.
Sydney, Brisbane, everyone is showing
Everywhere.
up because now they feel like enough is enough. But they wouldn't have had the confidence unless people like you previously stood up and led the way and shone the light. So
Thank you, mate.
a
Thanks,
huge
mate.
debt of credit has to go out to yourself, Pat, for some of the work that you've done.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it, Andy. You're doing a great thing, and I commend you on today. You're a good man. You're a good soldier. You're a good
Thank you,
man.
my friend. I really
Soldier.
appreciate it. Have you felt a bit of a change happen?
Yes, I
guess
do.
in your sphere.
Yes, I feel a wind of change, but not enough change. I feel a wind of change, but the Queen Mary moves slow. Up here in Queensland, as you know, between Miles and Palachuk, we got dictators here running amok. And as I said, all Scott Morrison has to say, right, I'm cutting off your GST until you do.
Yeah.
He could do that tomorrow. There is nothing stopping him. Absolutely not a thing. If you cut off the supply chain, which is what they did to people to go and get coerced to get jabs, and clergy demanding that of their priests and pastors, just beyond me. This is where we need some gutsy, we need a prime minister with big pants on, and right now, remember, this is the same guy that introduced the no jab, no play thing. Just remember that. So he's already got a ban. And again, we've got to mandate freedoms. He should mandate a change now, right now.
Yes.
Right now. He could do it. Walk in tomorrow and say, right, no GST, no federal money. I'm not doing it.
If he was serious, again, as you said, he's got the power, but clearly he doesn't have the clout. And that is what we need from a prime minister. And that is exactly what he has not shown. But again, my friend, you have shown clout, as have many of the speakers here today. And I want to say a huge thank you, my friend, for joining us at the Global Freedom Rally. If you're watching, go follow Pat. He's doing some amazing things, and he's relentless. Again, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Pat is an absolute warrior, and he's been doing a fantastic job. I want you to go and follow him. Check out all the rallies that he has coming up, some incredible events as well. If you want that inspiration and you want that energy, Pat is a leader to look up to, and he's doing some fantastic, fantastic things.